All right, so in this video, I am going to go over a method that is we can write to check to see if two ellipses are touching each other. I'll also do a later one with checking to see if two rectangles are colliding with each other. I'm going to do this for a couple of reasons. One, it's just a very useful thing to have in your code. This is typically included in some of these libraries, but in this one it's not. So it's just kind of something I'll code for you. Two, I want to also give you a good example of how we could write a method in our code to kind of give you some ideas for what you might need to do for your project. I will say that this, in your project that you're working on, if you're working on the first processing project, you need to have two methods. This one can't count. You have to make one of your own methods, but I do want to show you just what the structure of a good method would look like for this. All right, so what we're going to do over here is we are going to have, so we have like two circles, two ellipses. Actually, and I'm going to do this so it only works with circles. You could probably use it with ellipse, but it would be a little bit off. So you're just going to have to assume that these are circles, even though they don't look so good. Basically, we can tell if two circles are overlapping by checking the distance from one center to the other. So we need to check this distance. What we need to check for is the distance between the center of the two circles greater than, less than, or equal to the radii? So let's call this like radius 2 and radius 1. If the distance between the two centers is greater than the sum of this radius and this radius, then it means that the circles are not overlapping. However, if we get into a situation like this where we have the two centers, we still have radius 1, we still have, let's call this like radius 2, and this is our distance. If the distance at any point between the two centers becomes less than the sum of those two radii, that means that they are overlapping, because the only way for that to happen is for the circles to be overlapping. We'll probably do a little geometric proof for why that's the case, but let's just assume that's true. All right, so let's get into our code and how we're going to do this. All right, so let's get started with just kind of our basic setup of this. We are going to have, I'm going to create two ellipses. I'm going to call them ball 1 and ball 2. Hopefully in your code, you'll have maybe a game, you have like better, more descriptive names than ball 1 and ball 2. But that's what I'm going to do now just for demonstration. Let's see what else we have. Again, just to clarify, I'm doing size of 1600 and 1000 because I'm recording on a very large screen. Yours might be smaller than that. Make sure you mess with those numbers. And then I just created two ellipses that are going to appear on the screen. Let's see. The next thing I need to do is I need to make sure that I'm drawing these all the time. All right, I played around with these values a little bit to make sure the x and the width and the height. I had the width and height kind of messed up there. Yeah, so I just redid this a little bit. Then I get x and y's and our width and height to be the same to make this a circle. We are just setting the background every time we do this loop. We're going to do that, and then we're going to have the ball display. Let's see. I'm going to have the next thing I'm going to add onto here is, so just keep in mind you do have to display these every time to make them appear. Otherwise, nothing will happen. Next thing up, I'm just going to have ball 2 follow my mouse. Okay, so if we run this, we're going to see here, I have put this back on the screen. We have one ball and another ball traveling around here. So let's see. So what's next? We have that. Now we need to check for collisions. Okay. So what I'm going to do in this one is I'm going to make a new method, and this is where I want to try and demonstrate for you kind of a method that you could make. You have to make something of your own. Again, this is my kind of complex one that I'll use. Wouldn't count for you in your project if you just like copy and paste mine. I'm going to do check for collision. And what this method is going to take in, I can do this in a couple different ways. Since these are global variables, I'm not actually going to take in any parameters. I'm not going to say, like this will just have access to ball 1 and ball 2. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to send in some parameters. So this means that whenever I call this method, the code is going to be expecting that I'm going to pass something in. If I don't, it's going to give me some sort of error. Okay, so now what I need to do, I need to check for the collision. So basically, and you'll notice here I'm going to return a Boolean value. So that's a true or false. I need to say, like, are these two things colliding or are they not? Okay, so what I need to do in here is I have this ellipse. Let's go back to our drawing, just kind of reference what we're doing there. And as we put this into our code, that's not the right thing. Where is our whiteboard? One sec. All right, so if we go back to our reference diagram, we need to check for the distance between the two. We actually have a method that we can use. Processing provides us a method that will check this distance for us very quickly. And then we need to compare that value to see if it's bigger. I guess we need to check to see if it's, for collision, that value should be less than or equal to the two radii combined. So Let's get into our code here. We need to, in this method, we're going to take in two ellipses, and then we need to return a Boolean value. So just saying, yes, they are colliding, or no, they're not. All right, so let's check to see when they would be colliding. And then we'll say otherwise false. So I'm just gonna put these in here for right now. We are going to, all right, so when would they be colliding? Let's just do, I'm gonna make a separate variable here. I'm gonna say, I think it's gonna be a float, or I'm gonna probably just do a double distance between circles. And in order to calculate this, there's actually, like I said, there is a method already available to us within processing. It's called dist. Dist can be used to calculate the distance. Basically, it's like a Pythagorean theorem to find the distance between two of these things. So if we go back to here, we're going to take like Pythagorean theorem. If you don't remember, we have the x value here. We kind of draw in a little between any two circles. We would figure out how much is in the x, how much is in the y, and then square these two, add them together, and then take the square root. So if we go back into here, we're going to find the distance between these two. We are going to take, and so this one just kind of like compresses all that, the Pythagorean theorem, just into a single thing. It's going to ask for four things. It's going to ask for x1, y1, x2, y2. So I need to get the x value off of my b. Right. Off of b1, I'm going to get the x value. Off of b1, I'm also going to extract its y value. Off of b2, I'll extract the x value. And off of b2, I'll get the y value. Okay. All right, so that's the distance between the two circles. Easy enough. Now what we need to do is see if that value, if the distance between the two circles is, let's see, it would have to be less than or equal to the sum of the two radii. So I can find the radius by taking b1, get width, and then divide by 2, right? Because the width of our circle is just going to be, it's actually going to be the diameter. We need to cut that in half to get the radius. And then also b2.get width divided by 2. All right, so we got the distance here. We're checking to see if these two things are true. And basically with this value, what this method is going to do is it's going to return a Boolean value. So we can call this method up here, check for collisions. And we can pass in our 2. It's going to autofill for us these two ellipses. Okay, what I need to do is I'm going to just check the value of this because I want to check to see if it's returning true or false. And just really quickly, I'll do a basic version of this. I just want to say system out print, like collision detected. This is going to put something into the terminal, letting me know if a collision is detected or not. And I can do some fancy stuff later on, but let me try that for now. Okay, so we have this here. Overlapping, you can see, oh, maybe you can't see on my screen. The very bottom, if you look over here, we're seeing that a collision is detected whenever these two things are touching. It's not really showing up on the camera, but you can see it's starting to spam off when these are detected. Let's do something a little bit more interesting. Right now we're just having that thing do that. Let's make this do a random color. So all I need to do in here is like when I check for collision, I just need to, I'm just gonna do it randomly. I don't know which one. I'm gonna do the one that I'm moving. So I'm moving ball 2. So I'm gonna say ball2.set ball2.set fill. And I need to pass in like an RGB value. So I'll pass in, I want it to be random. So I'm gonna say random 255. Random 255, random 255. We're going to run this. We get these two. Oof. And you can see as soon as it highlights, as soon as it touches, it's going to start to change color. All right, so we have a couple things in here. One, I think this is a tool that you can just use. I will upload this code. If you look down in the description below this video, you'll see a link to the GitHub that will have this exact code in there, so you can just copy and paste it if you need to. Again, that won't count towards your method credits, like the 2 methods you need to have, but it is something that you could use in your code. I'm going to make a couple more videos, one checking to see if 2 rectangles are colliding, and then also I want to do one to see if, I'll try and see if I can get one to do like an ellipse and a rectangle colliding.